the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And just a heads up, if you hear excessive breathing, that is Boris. It is getting to be over 70 degrees, and that's when he needs to breathe hard. So anyway, he's right beside me, and we were just outside, and he's breathing a little heavily and has a bellyache today for some reason, and seems like he's going over to a plant, which might be the reason for the bellyache. Boris, come here. Okay. We'll see. Hi, Boris. Let's see. He wants to come say hi. Wait, I gotta turn off my background. This is how we do things around here. Oh, turn off blur. Here he goes. Boris, look. Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Boris. Cutest darn dog you've ever seen. So this little guy has a belly ache today. He didn't eat his breakfast, which is very unusual. So anyway, we're gonna take care today, right? Okay, moving on. Today, I'd like to talk about daily emotional inventory and the ongoing work of self-appraisal. This was actually the topic in my morning meeting, and then the second meeting, we went on to talk about honesty. So I thought this was a great topic. We started off by talking about emotional hangovers. And what that is, that feeling when you drank too much and you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, what happened last night? That's an emotional hangover and it's terrible. It feels like just utter humiliation and shame and physical reactions of sweating, and it's terrible. It's terrible. I have felt way too many emotional hangovers, and you can feel an emotional hangover not from drinking. What it is like it's having participated in something. This is my definition of it. It's having participated in something, like reacted to somebody or something. And often it's like unprocessed emotions that don't disappear. They just wait for you. And that's the stuff that collects in my dark place that I talk about all the time. So today's overreactions can often have roots that are those unresolved emotions from yesterday or even earlier in the day. Emotional hangovers can distort our perception of the present moment. And what is required for me in order to really avoid emotional hangovers at all costs is to do this constant self-appraisal. So it started in sobriety, where I was introduced to step 10, which I think I practiced step 10 in my second year of sobriety. It took me a while to get through the steps because I procrastinated. But step 10 is where we do that daily inventory, like, where have I been jealous, resentful, afraid, angry, all of that stuff. So I used to have this little prayer card. I still have it, but since my head is typically pretty symptomatic by the end of the day, I don't read from the card anymore. Um, but it's pulled from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I would read it every night before bed. Consistency, man. I did it every night before bed, and that had a ripple effect into my life. as I made decisions throughout the day. It took time for that ripple effect to happen, but I would read that prayer card and it would say like pretty much where were you resentful, afraid, that kind of stuff. And I would like, and I mentioned it just the other day. I've talked about it a lot over the past couple years. I would stop with each word and really think about my interactions that day and how did I feel? Maybe nothing wrong happened throughout the day, but was there an interaction I had with somebody and I was feeling like off? Just a little bit off. And what caused that? I talk about the color wheel of emotions. It's like it takes so much practice to figure out what are the primary emotions, what are the secondary, tertiary emotions that are causing my behavior, and what can I do about it? So I started out with that continuous inventory every night before I went to bed. And that underlying primary emotion is very connected to my motive. You know, my actions are not necessarily um, obvious as how they are connected to my emotions. But if I put that all together, my thoughts, my motives, and my actions, and I take some time to review that and I get honest with myself, and not in order to feel shame about it or guilt about it, but to look at the truth. What is guiding my behavior? And I just talked about that yesterday. Um, so there are times, there's kind of a three-tier approach to self-appraisal in my life. One is that start of doing step 10, and that is the daily appraisal at night. And then the other tier is like doing a full house cleaning. And for me, that's sitting down with my sponsor and writing notes, like writing stuff out, journaling, acknowledging patterns of maybe self-deception or harmful motives, and doing that thorough and fearless moral inventory that we learn about in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I see that full house cleaning as it requiring to work with somebody else, like a sponsor. Um, the willingness to do all of this stuff, it really comes from getting to that point of honesty, that I'm being honest with myself. And then the third tier of self-appraisal, which I think takes a lot of practice to make a habit out of it, is the in the moment spot check. And I think that I was thinking about this today, like how did this become a habit for me? I'm not perfect at it and I shouldn't use past tense. It's becoming a habit for me. How am I getting into that habit of pausing and looking at how I'm feeling? And I think it is correlated with having built the habit of pausing and being grateful for things. It's kind of like anything that happens in my life, I'm not just buckling in, going for the ride and just not looking back or not looking around. Like I want to stop at each port, you know, I want to stop at each port and really think about what has been happening since my last check-in. And I do this a lot throughout the day. I do it for my mental well-being because I need to do an emotional scan throughout the day to figure out how I'm feeling. And this is more like in line with my psychiatry appointments, that I want to look at if I'm feeling spiritually fit, if I'm feeling emotionally, do I need to talk to somebody? Really is a lot of when I'm doing a self-appraisal throughout the day now. Um, am I reacting throughout the day to some feelings of discomfort, that feeling of discomfort of just hanging out with myself all the time? Am I reacting to that and going throughout my day without pausing and looking at what is the primary emotion that's driving me today? Do I have some pride that is blocking me from doing what's best for me, doing the next right thing? Um, that applies a lot with my stroke and vestibular recovery. The inability to ask for help, and that also I think is works in tandem with the inability to just reach out and talk to somebody when I need to communicate with somebody. I have a without having my career now, I have to do the work to nurture my relationships. So also looking at when I was working, like looking at jealousy and resentment, like throughout the day when I was working, there were all kinds of emotions but they were secondary and tertiary emotions, and they were all coming from one place, usually. Um, and for me, it was like ego. That's really where a lot of my emotions came from. And I needed to do spot checks throughout the day so that I was kind and courteous to people. I always have felt like I'm a really nice person, but I'll tell you, I can have some kind of a little bit of nastiness in me. And it's really, it comes from the root cause is like me trying to protect myself. It is fear that is making me react that way to people. And I've come a long freaking way over the past 8 years of my sobriety. I have 10 days, people. I have 10 days for my until my next anniversary, 9 years. But we're not gonna look ahead. It's one day at a time. But I've come a long way, and it has taken a lot of practice. I talk about that time period between putting down the drink and not getting through the steps yet. Um, it's really just a really uncomfortable time. It's like building that toolbox. Like we have to put together our own toolbox and put things inside it. And it just takes so much time, and it takes being gentle with yourself. And I'll have to do this my whole life. But you know what? I get to do it. I get to do it my whole life because I'm still here and I'm still fighting for myself. So, the daily appraisal should come to the point of like brushing your teeth. It's essential and it's habitual. And just like I remember to express gratitude, and I don't always, but I'm trying, I learned to remember to examine myself. And that emotional maintenance prevents a spiritual corrosion. And that spiritual corrosion can happen within an 8 hour workday. You know what I'm talking about. Um, it is so easy to have something just happen in your day and just be like, I'm having a terrible day, you know? And it doesn't have to be that way. I told I tell my kids it's never too late to start your day over. And my daughter said, it is. It is too late. And I tell her, even at night before she goes to bed, like, it's never too late to start your day over. You don't have to say, I'm having a bad day. It's not the day that is defining how you're doing, it is yourself. You are defining how your day is going to be. And it's your choice whether to start your day over or not. Every moment can be better than the last if you make the decision to go down that path. So, watching out for jealousy, anger, hurt, pride is a huge one for me. These emotions will completely sabotage my day if I let them. Um, Practicing self-restraint if I am feeling these things of jealousy, anger, and pride. I haven't felt a lot of jealousy since I stopped working. I used to feel jealous all the time because I wanted to be the best. I always wanted to be the best. That's kind of embarrassing to say. Like, I don't know. I think some of my ex-coworkers listen, and that is what drove me a lot, was that I wanted to be the best. And that's, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be the best. The problem is I had to be open to other people who may be better than me at something. And instead of doing that, instead of encouraging somebody to be better than me, using them as a resource, which I think I started to become better at that, um, I was jealous. And if I'm feeling those types of emotions on the inside, um, then I don't have to act on them. I can practice self-restraint, the pause. So, that is like trying to stop a moving train. I realize it's not easy, but, having willingness to do that comes from being honest. Why do I feel this way? Why do I feel like being mean to this person? Or why did that um sentence come out of my mouth? Like, I may say something nice to somebody, but because of some sort of underlying character defect, some underlying emotion, whatever I say can come across really not very nicely. I am a master, a master of manipulation. I feel like I am. And maybe I'm not, but I used to tell my boss that all the time. Um, what I need to understand about myself is, and this isn't a bad thing, but that I am emotionally ill and I am frequently wrong. And that is a humbling but clarifying truth to my behavior throughout any day. I am emotionally ill and frequently wrong. And that's something that I should write down. I should write down because I think if I revisit that, again, it's not like making me feel like I'm a terrible person. It's just like humbling myself. Um, so flipping over the coin, what about when other people are unkind or demanding or unaware, when other people are not courteous. It's not my responsibility to manage their behavior. It's my responsibility to manage my response. So some of my negative interactions may not necessarily be rooted in my own emotions. It is a reaction to somebody else's behavior. And as much as I can make unreasonable demands of somebody else, other people can make unreasonable demands for me. And what do I do when that happens? Well, I think one thing that I always come back to is, am I trying to be right or am I trying to be happy? My response does not have to be the first thing that I think of. And I always thought that that's how conversations go. Somebody says something and then I respond to it. Well, sometimes it's nice to have those moments of silence where I confirm, is that really what I want to say? Am I trying? Man, this has happened a lot lately. As I'm thinking about it, I'm like, when my husband will talk to me, it's like my brain is telling me, no, he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. Correct him, correct him, correct him. Like it's so loud in my head that I can't shut up and listen to what he's saying. So why am I doing that? Like it's self-serving. I want to tell him that he's wrong and I'm right. And maybe he's not wrong. And maybe I'm not right. What it comes down to in moments like that is that I want to be heard. I want to, I don't know. I want him to understand. Yeah. I want him to understand. And another saying that I've learned and have just really held on to in sobriety is that it is better to understand than to be understood. You know, when I'm trying to be loving and kind and courteous, that needs to be rooted in honesty. And so I have to continue to look at myself. And I can deceive myself and not even know it. I can be totally deceiving to myself and tell myself, no, that's not true. That's not why. I didn't say that because, um, but if I just shut up and stop running my mouth, which I'm pretty good at, I will start being able to analyze what's really happening between my ears. What is the primary emotion and what are the secondary and tertiary or backwards? Like what am I feeling? Jealousy? Why am I jealous? Am I fearful of something? And try to trace it back. And people will wait for you to figure it out. If you're in a conversation with somebody and you're like, you know what? I need to think about that for a second. And you just pause. Um, People will wait for you to try to figure it out. Because it's healthy for a conversation, for a relationship. So some other things that I learned this morning were my sponsor says this all the time, and it was actually my sponsor that said this morning. Expectations are resentments under construction. So letting go of control of people, places, and things is practicing acceptance. And when I let go and I pause and I practice acceptance, then along with that acceptance, I get an emotion. Inevitably, I get an emotion out of acceptance because I don't want to accept. I just have to accept. But freedom and self-knowledge lies in that adjustment of um, of letting go of expectations. So instead of seeking to be understood, um, we can understand others and then look inward and figure out what is happen what does that make me feel like and what can I do about that? What are my motives behind this conversation? And how can I find peace with that and nurture the relationship without demanding that they understand exactly what I'm saying. Um, I Again, I didn't know that pride was playing such a huge role in my relationships and in my emotions. Um, Pride is at work, it felt like confidence, but it's not confidence. Pride is actually armor. It's not confidence. And I didn't know that it was getting in the way until I started working the steps. The steps really helped to uncover where I was hiding, what I was hiding from, and who I was hurting. So staying honest and getting humble, it takes my spot checks. But I couldn't start the spot checks until I just started with that nightly inventory. That's how it had to start for me. I had to start somewhere to like start building that habit and getting humble. It helps to be by myself when I'm looking at my relationships so that I'm not disturbed or swayed by whatever's going on in my environment. So that nightly practice really helped me. And if I needed to, like in that moment, I would contact whoever it was that I felt like I might need to make an amends with. And half the time it was good that I did because I actually did piss a couple people off. Like, go figure that I actually pissed people off. You know, we don't know what kind of impact we're having on other people, but we do have the opportunity to find out. Find out what are we doing in our relationships? Are we giving as much as we're getting? And being willing to see what impact I'm having rather than just being almost like um what am I trying to think of? Like when you're just casting out oh darn, I can't think of the word. Anyway, when you're just talking but you're not receiving, whatever that is. Anyway, being willing to look at what's going on inside. Like self-honesty will bring true self-respect. And I know that it takes a lot of time and it takes daily practice. It takes being completely relentless. And also, and most importantly, I think it takes being gentle with ourselves because at the end of the day, like we're not trying to make ourselves feel even worse. We're trying to make ourselves feel better and make better decisions and be a better version of ourselves. So, good topic today. And I'm getting ready to go on a little date with one of my friends. We're going to go have some lunch and then we're going to do a craft today. So I'm super excited and I think she's on her way. So I've been avoiding checking my text so that I think she's going to be here, yeah, in 25 minutes. So I got to go curl my hairs. Maybe I'll even put on some makeup. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be hot today. Alrighty. Well, that's all I've got. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.